there's an altcoin market cap chart zoomed out on the weekly in a bit of a dip right now, but right now that move very normal. And I'm going to show you exactly what's going on in terms of price action for altcoins like Ethereum on the daily, ADA on the daily, both hitting targets we've been talking about. And I also want to look at the Fed balance sheet. What I want to do is I've added some context and data to the chart. This has everything to do with the business cycle and crypto cycles. And I wanted to explore previous bull markets, what was happening on this chart in terms of what the Fed was doing and why it is so meaningful to what is about to happen with the Fed balance sheet in the coming months. And then Bitcoin zoomed out on the weekly. We are in a dip, 17% or so right now. This is a move we've seen happen often. And right now, many people calling for the beginning of a bear market. I think it's a good use of my time at this time to explain to you and show you with as much data as I possibly can why I just don't think we're entering a bear market right now for Bitcoin and crypto. And I just want to make sure you all know this is my opinion, but I'm bringing my opinion with as much data as possible. I could be wrong, and I know that. We all have to balance our risk here, but I want to bring as much data as I can to this conversation. So hit the subscribe and like on the way in. If you're not in our intelligence system with our risk models, get back there. We have the free trial going on right now. Many of our models closer to accumulation areas than take profit areas, which is very interesting at this stage of the cycle. So let's start with Bitcoin real quick. I just want to make a very quick note. We're in a 17% move right now. And what I did was I just look how many dips we have fallen into, whether it's 10, 13, 28, 15, this cycle. And it does seem, especially these longer term consolidations that we fall into, whatever it looks like, it seems like every time there's bear market talk. And this is not anything new, especially this cycle, but you can just see last cycle with just trillions of liquidity pouring into the space during just insane QE. There were dips even in that bull market. And then you go back 2 cycles ago, look at these dips from 2 bull markets ago for Bitcoin. This is nothing new. But what can we do besides just evaluating charts to really start gauging what could be in store for crypto? So that's what I want to talk about. And then we're going to look at the altcoin market cap chart and really start talking about price action. This really is a move we've been looking at since this video on October 8th when this chart was at 1.7 trillion. So let's start here. I want to start with the Fed balance sheet. As we know, we covered this. Jerome Powell the other day basically said quantitative tightening will be coming to an end in the coming months. Deutsche Bank, I think it was yesterday, they're saying probably December this will be announced. Now, if that's the case, and we've just been in years of quantitative tightening, liquidity being drained from the system over and over again, and this is really just prolonging any type of altcoin breakout. What happens if this levels off? And this is what's kind of cool, this cycle, is this is a little bit different. Last cycle, when we had the bull run for crypto, the bull run happened here. So here's the beginning really of the bull run. Here's the top of the bull market. What was happening all here is on the Fed balance sheet, just crazy quantitative easing, expansion phase, trillions being injected. We had a bull run during that time. And we know where that started, right? COVID, everything that happened back here, we went into this crazy expansion phase. That's what the bull market looked like though. And then the top of last bull market preceded the beginning of quantitative tightening. So a lot of people that are calling for the beginning of the bear market now are essentially saying they think we're going to fall into a bear market preceding the end of quantitative tightening. That's just something that I disagree with right now. Now, go back to 2 cycles ago, and this is what's kind of interesting, and I would say cool, is the bull market that you see here. This is the beginning really of the bull market and the end of the bull market. This is a zoomed out weekly, but all in this area, it wasn't quantitative easing. It wasn't quantitative tightening. We were in this post-quantitative easing normalization period. So here's the QE that was happening, and then we just went sideways, right, for a while. And the bull market happened somewhere in there, that post-QE area. So now we're entering a post-QT normalization period. What I think is exceptionally bullish for crypto and Bitcoin and everything and altcoins is if you look at all these business cycle areas and what was happening, QE, post QE, QT, whatever, this era that we're in right now is lining up with non-business cycle things that crypto's never experienced. Pro-crypto administration, pro-crypto SEC, Clarity Act, altcoin ETFs, Bitcoin ETF, all of this happening while this draining of liquidity is going to be coming to an end. Rate cuts just starting, going into 2026. A very bullish, I would say, Fed chair replacement in May. I don't know. These things, for me, are lining up to say, you know what? Maybe it won't be just an insane parabolic run. And if the Bitcoin chart so far this cycle, and even the altcoin chart so far this cycle has taught us anything, it's that this cycle is completely different. And it's likely not going to be just some crazy parabolic run, right? Like every other cycle that we see here on the chart. And I think this plays very much into just a post-quantitative tightening normalization as rate cuts are coming down and we're getting all this pro-crypto legislation going through, all of this money and capital going to be just pouring into the crypto space. It doesn't have to be in this just crazy parabolic trillions being injected expansion phase. It could be in a post-quantitative tightening phase, a normalization phase. We've seen a normalization bull market before, and it was back here. And we had way more pressure from a legislation standpoint, SEC standpoint, whatever you want to call it, than we do right now. So that's that. Now let's talk about some price action on altcoins, Ethereum, ADA. And I want to just show a really quick clip. This is October 8th. Check it out. Overview. Here's what's going on with altcoins, the altcoin market cap chart right now. In play, and it's been the case, here's the 50 and 20 right down here. A big dip is in play for the altcoin market cap chart. Rejected again at this area. Rejected again at the area. I'm just as frustrated as most of you out there. I just am. But this is really no surprise. It can't be a surprise. It can be frustrating. It could be annoying, but it can't be a surprise. And the reason I was doing that is because it just wouldn't have surprised me if we got rejected again. There is something going on right now. There's a lot of things going on, I should say, that we don't even know about, I think, in terms of accumulation, manipulation, whatever you want to call these things, or even the confluence of these things. But I just know that these things are likely happening right now, preparing for something, a massive shift into the crypto space. I'm so bullish on the crypto space. I think it is very early. And even if I'm wrong about this current cycle, and we do fall into a bear market, I'm just that type of person right now on the macro. I'm trying to balance my risk. And, maybe crypto does fall into some bear market and we have to start evaluating a higher low, just cycle, higher low, right? From the bear market lows. I don't know. But even if that were the case, I'm here to build. I think this space is so early. And if anything is giving just hints of that, it's the pro-crypto legislation and what institutions are doing with crypto. But I digress from that. And right now we're getting the move. We've gotten the move. The liquidations that happened last week, you can see we wicked all through these moving averages. And right now we have an actual more solid candle just making its way into these moving average areas with high fear right now. So the 20-week is around 1.4 trillion. We're like right there right now. The 50-week moving average is 1.3 trillion. Let's see. Let's monitor. That's a support area I've been monitoring anyway. But please keep in mind, if that fails, we've had this 200-week moving average through this entire cycle so far from bear market lows, which has been holding up as this kind of capitulation area. So things could get really bad. They really could. And that could even be in this environment where we're having a post-QT normalization bull cycle of higher highs, higher lows. It's just kind of just delayed, right? We're not getting the parabolic move. And so that's potentially in play down here, right? This 200-week moving average. But what I really want to do is, as we go into Q4 and we continue to see what happens with rate cuts this month, what happens with quantitative tightening narrative, and when it really comes to an end, I do want to monitor on the shorter to midterm, this 50 and 20 week. Let's continue to see what happens. But to get some hints maybe in terms of price action, here we are with Ethereum. So with Ethereum, Ethereum has done absolutely nothing that has been concerning to me. And this is on a weekly from different perspectives. We broke out of this multi-year triangle after getting the busted pattern that we were anticipating right here. That is the throwback, the pullback into the triangle, the breakout. Then we're anticipating a throwback to the triangle apex. It happened. We're in the move right now. And we are starting, and we're still monitoring this. I remember, I think on our live stream last week when the capitulation was happening, just saying we have to give it some time to form some type of lower trend line. If you saw that video, you know what I'm talking about. And this is what's happening. I'm waiting for structure on the Ethereum chart on the daily. Let's continue to watch to see what structure forms. And back to the weekly, the other thing is this, the 20-week moving average right here around $3,600. We have the 50-week moving average around $3,100. This entire area is the apex area of this massive multi-year triangle. So I would like to see support right here. I would like to see even a symmetrical triangle start forming right here would be phenomenal at the 20-week moving average support. But just keep in mind, if the coming week, 2 weeks, whatever, we still just see crypto falling, right? And altcoin market cap just going into in between the 50 and the 20. Be careful. Be ready. Be ready for it. It would be a throwback to the apex of this triangle, and that's something that's in play. But right now, so far, this move, we could see support. So let's kind of monitor. Let's see how this weekly candle closes for Ethereum the next 2 days, 8 hours. The thing I wanted to point out for ADA price action is this. Just look at the daily chart. What I was monitoring was kind of this bullish divergence on the daily. And I don't want to sit here and just say, you know what, game on, it's game on. When you look at a Binance chart, I think it's clear on the Binance chart. I mean, I think the bottom is in. I posted that the other day. I should have been more cautious about how I posted that because on some charts, that post that I did on X, the bottom being in, could be very wrong, right? If you go back to this Coinbase chart, the bottom was not in when I posted it. We're still kind of trickling down. You could look at a Binance chart. I'm not so sure ADA is going to go back down to sub 30 cents. In that case, the bottom is in. But on the weekly, you can just see we are actually above, and let me actually go back to the Binance chart because it's just way more data here. We're above the 20-week moving average on ADA. 57 cents is that area. And I think that's notable because we had this area as resistance back here trying to come out of the bear market. And then so far this cycle, it's been an area that has failed as support. I think it could be very telling if ADA ends up, and I don't know, but we get weekly support above the 200-week moving average, we start going green. That could be very notable, but right now, a little too early to even talk about that because it is a very quick move for ADA to start closing weekly candles below that area. And there's a ton of fear in this market, so I'm not going to kind of just put out that bull content right now. But if we get a weekly close this week, I'll start raising my eyebrow a little bit in terms of what ADA might be capable of in terms of a reversal off the 200-week. This could be massive because this would be the first time this cycle we got such a move. And really, since Cardano is, on this chart, doesn't have even a 200-week moving average last cycle, this would be the first time Cardano sees support above the 200-week moving average. You'd wait and watch. If that happened, how quick sentiment changes. Right now, sentiment's terrible. Just wait. If we get a bounce off this 200-week moving average and start trending back up towards 80 cents even, watch what happens. But I do want to go back to the daily chart. So it's kind of like this bullish divergence playing out right now. I'd be curious to see, even in the very short term, what happens here as we're watching Ethereum, right, at the kind of lower end of this kind of speculative triangle. Can Ethereum get support on the short term, right, and start making a bounce to the upside, really start putting in some structure? And if that's the case, does ADA on the short term get some support above that 200-week moving average? Yes, but also start putting in a really nice, and when I talk about the bullish divergence here, it's kind of like this candle close. We had this crazy capitulation, but we're getting just a candle below this candle, and you can kind of just see there's a little bit of a bullish divergence there. And I'd be very curious to see what happens in terms of some type of ADA reversal. We had some bullish divergence right there. And you can kind of go back on this chart and just spot these areas of bullish divergence and see whether or not ADA put in a bottom or not, right? And that's kind of what I'm going to be monitoring right now. Notice how there's bearish divergence here, and that was the bottom for ADA, right? This momentum went lower, but that was the bottom. So it's just something to monitor. It's something I'm monitoring. Really, in terms of price action for ADA, all of this area right here at the 200-day moving average, sitting at about 74 cents, the 20, 77, and the 50, 82. 82 down to 74 is a huge resistance area. If ADA starts breaking above those areas, watch out, because we might have a momentum swing in price as well as sentiment. So these are my thoughts today on kind of crypto, what's going on. Completely just my opinion, everybody. I'm trying to be very upfront, and I'm not trying just because we're in this high fear environment. I don't want to sit here and just be on the safe side and present to you bearish cases. We know the bearish cases, right? I'm trying to present to you why I think on the macro, things are still bullish. And this is just my opinion. I appreciate you watching. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you're not in our intelligence system, get back there. We've got our risk models. There's ADA sitting at a 31 right now, closer to accumulation areas than take profit areas. And that is just something I keep thinking about right now. And it's the case for a lot of the altcoins that are back there. You go to something like Bitcoin, more to a neutral phase. So hit the link below. We have a free trial going on right now. And either way, everybody, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.